Welcome to Ireland Crimes and Mysteries. And now, it's time to join your host Nools for another episode.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Ireland Crimes and Mysteries. I want to thank you for joining me today, and if you're a returning listener, I want to say a big thank you for your continued support. If this is your first time listening to my podcast, welcome. It's great to have you on board. Right guys, before we start today's podcast, I just wanted to let you know that today's podcast is going to be a little bit different in that I'm going to be doing my very first interview. And the interview is with a man named Ciaran MacConnell. Now, Kieran runs a very informative website called irelandsvanishingtriangle.com, and he has conducted extensive research into the Vanishing Triangle, which we all know is an area in Ireland, predominantly in the Leinster area, where a significant number of women have gone missing since the late 1980s right through the 1990s, with most of them never been found or never been seen again. So in the episode, we will be delving into the individual cases that he has researched and examining the details surrounding their disappearances and the lasting impact that it has had on their families, the community at large, and the country at large. Now, as well as running the website, Ciaran also co-hosts a podcast called The Cliff's Edge, where he discusses various unsolved true crimes with his co-host Shane. So you can head over and give that a listen as well. So I hope you find this podcast now as interesting and informative as I did to record it. So without further ado, here's my interview with Ciaran. Hi Ciaran, welcome to Ireland Crimes and Mysteries, the interview. I'm delighted to have you on board as my first interview.
I've actually listened to your show since the start, so I'm happy to be on. Like, there's some great episodes. I must say, the Dean Roach episode you did really stood out. Brilliantly done, yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, I met Dean's best friend Damien. Actually, he approached me about doing that podcast, so I was delighted to be able to help him out. So I was.
It was a tough one to cover, and I must say, you really explained it very well.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Could you tell me a bit about yourself, Kieran, how you got interested in the Vanishing Triangle? Where did it all start for you?
Yeah. Well, basically, when I was younger, I remember watching Crime Call a lot of the time when I was younger, and the JoJo Doerty case was probably the first kind of case that really stood with me. So I've followed them since I was a kid, really, to see what was to see if there's any updates and so on. So when I went to college, I just started researching the cases a bit further with people from college and stuff, and there was no kind of central website that covered all the cases. You're just constantly going back and forward between different Google pages and all this type of thing. So I just decided, actually, I might as well make the website myself, and then that grew, and I was surprised, like, the website's actually done quite well over the years.
That's how I actually found out about you. I stumbled upon your website, and I thought it was really, you did a really good, concise, each story you had a really good, you gave the background, you gave all the information was there, nice
thanks very much.
Yeah, so it was.
That's the point of it, really. Yeah, like, there's no I wasn't really, well, I would have no right really to speculate like wildly on the cases or anything like that. So I basically just compiled what is known and put it together. That's basically really what it is.
Yeah, but you've done a great job. The website then, much. For people that are listening, the website's called irelandsvanishingtriangle.com. If you want to get all the information, that's where to go. Ciaran has it all there for you. Nice. And before we get into the cases as well, you're starting your own podcast, I hear.
Yeah, I'm actually, because
You've actually started
a podcast about. Yeah, well, I brought out one about 2 years ago about the Vanishing Triangle, but it was extremely amateur and not so good. But I learned a bit from it, so I actually decided to redo it. And I've got a co-host, Shane. He's from Haunted Era. He has a YouTube channel. And he's really, he gives the show personality, I suppose.
Yeah, he's very good. I've seen him too.
You know him, yeah. So it's The Cliff's Edge, we're going to call it. So yeah, it's 2 episodes out so far, so a few already stocked up. So
yeah, I've listened to the Jack the Ripper one, and it was very good, I have to say. I found it really interesting.
Thanks. Yeah, because that was actually, Shane was interested in that case for years, so he wanted to cover it. And then the next one I did was this one called the Barnstable John Doe, quite an obscure case. So if you're into them type of ones that would be unsolved and obscure, they're the kind of ones I like. so to speak.
Yes, but so if you give it a listen there, the Cliff's Edge podcast. If you're obviously you're all into true crime. So getting back anyway to the Vanishing Triangle, right? We know that the Vanishing Triangle takes in South Dublin, it takes in Wicklow, and it takes in Kildare, and we have a lot of women for Ireland. You could say a lot of women that went missing between 1987 and 2003. In that triangle.
She went back through the statistics and looked through from I think the 30s, 40s, 50s, so on, up to this time, and there's no real time period where this many women like disappeared at one, like,
No, definitely.
And though it is like, but you're right though, like a lot of the cases are kind of central, are kind of clustered in and around like Kildare, Wicklow, South Dublin, that sort of area.
Yeah, and the first one kind of takes place then, the first official one that I can see on your website is Antoinette Smith in July of 1987.
Yeah, that was she was a young mother of two from Clondalkin. She went to a David Bowie concert in, I think it was the middle of July, in Slane Castle, came back to town, went to a nightclub with her friend, and then I think they separated at about 2:30 in the morning, and she was basically seen walking towards Westmoreland Street over O'Connell Bridge there, and that was the last sighting of her. And then she was found the following Easter, which would have been about 10 months later, up in the Dublin and Wicklow Mountains in a bog. Yeah,
the poor girl, like, you know, and
case has never been solved.
I was going to say nobody's ever been got for that. So
no, I don't even think there's even been a person of interest, to be honest, like ever stated by the Gardaí anyway.
I know it, and she's the first of many, as I said. Because then you go on to December 1991 and you have Patricia Doherty, and she went missing in Tallaght, wasn't it?
Yeah, she's from Tallaght. Now, it wouldn't be far from where Antoinette Smith was from. She was from Clondalkin, so Tallaght and Clondalkin, they're beside each other. So she was 29 years of age, mother of two as well. She was around Christmas time. She went Christmas shopping, I think it was the 23rd of December, and came home about 9 o'clock. Decided to go back out to a nearby shopping centre, and was never seen again. Basically, she was seen by a neighbour walking towards the shopping centre at about 9:10, and then she was potentially seen getting into a car just outside the shopping centre.
Oh,
and
really?
Then she was found. I think it was the 21st of June. So within 6 months later, she was found by a guy cutting turf in a place in the Dublin and Wicklow Mountains. It's known as Glass Mucky Breaks. Strange name.
Yeah, that is an unusual name. And she was a prison officer, wasn't she? Was she the prison officer? She was.
She'd only just started, I think. She used to be a school secretary, so she trained in Portlaoise for a few months, and then she was working in Mountjoy, because she didn't get reported missing straight away. I don't think her husband reported her missing the Christmas Day because he thought she might have been in work or something like that,
Okay.
So that was the guards were, like, unfortunately, unluckily for them, like, it's not their fault, they were behind on that one because she'd been missing for 2 days. It was Christmas Day when she was reported missing, so they were on the back foot. I think it was a very difficult case for the Gardaí in general, So again, no suspect, no person of interest, no arrests.
The mind boggles, really, doesn't it? And then you come on to kind of our first kind of, I suppose you would call, high profile that really gained traction in the media is Annie McCarrick in March of 1993.
Most infamous missing person case, I would say, probably in Irish history, up there anyway, unfortunately, So Annie, I think most people know her story, don't you? She was a student from Long Island, living in Sandymount, and then, but I suppose that's the story they know. But there's like, what did you make of that? They brought out a lot of updates quite recently on this case.
Yes, I was going to say that to you. They've kind of moved the whole case from Enniskerry now back to the Sandymount area. And they're saying that it was a person known to her. She had seemingly said that she had been assaulted prior to her disappearance.
Yeah, her friends were saying, and stalked as well.
Yeah.
Which is quite disturbing.
Yeah. So
I think it seems now, like, with a lot of the cases, I suppose we'll go through, there's like a history of like domestic violence, like prior to them going disappearing, like at least half the cases. And basically the people that inflicted this violence on the women, they've never been ruled out as persons of interest. Like,
it's just to find the evidence. Just to find the evidence, really, isn't it? Like, you know, and I mean,
so
it's kind of, I don't know what to make of Annie's case, really, because you've got all these witnesses that saw her walking to the bus, and
Foxes.
yeah, you know, and you even have witnesses that think they saw her in Enniskerry, like, you know. But I remember in my podcast saying that there was another girl that seemingly was American and just happened and looked kind of not too unlike her, that was in Enniskerry around the same time.
They tracked that girl down. They tracked her down, and I think she said that night, I can't remember even if she said she was in Johnny Fox's that night, but she was around that time in Johnny Fox's. But I think she was with her mother.
Right.
And so the sighting of Annie was with a man that, like, the bouncer said she was known to, like, and you've seen the photo fit of the guy, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember talking about him even in the podcast, and he was meant to have been a high profile guy in a certain organisation. He had said too much was what was the going kind of story at the time to her.
I think that theory was...
Is it a red herring?
Yeah, it seemed too implausible. Like,
or fantastical even.
I think we know... Yeah, because, like, if she got... Right, so let's say people get into this organisation, right? They don't go around pubs telling people such things. That's the bare minimum.
No matter how drunk they were,
for getting into this organisation. Yeah, they just don't do that. But let's say he did, right? So he gets drunk in the pub, tells her, oh, so-and-so was in the IRA, someone famous. And then basically, what's she going to do with that information? Go down to the Irish Times and go, oh, I was told this person in power is in the IRA. Oh, who's your source on that? Oh, some drunk guy in the pub on Friday night. Like, now, if I can decipher that, I'm sure they can decipher that. Like, they're not going to create the most infamous missing persons case in the history of the state, possibly, for something like that. Like,
for something, exactly. No, I think
very hard.
It's sad really that it's taken this long, but maybe now they are hopefully on the right track, you know, coming back to Sandymount and looking that guy. I don't know now. I could be totally wrong. It's all hearsay at the minute.
I think, well, I've actually personally now, I was like suspicious from the person they've identified as a suspect from the start that I looked into this case. Like, just a few things in their story that was quite unusual. So, and they are the suspect, like, so, yeah.
But then again, it's the same old, isn't it? If you don't have a body, it's very hard or a crime scene even. It's very hard to prove anything.
Like, see, we all can have theories and all, but I suppose ultimately till the cases are solved and there's a conviction.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but as you said, she was probably...
Yeah, killed by someone known to... I think it was probably someone known to her, like, I think,
Yeah, absolutely.
I suppose there is a scenario where she did still go to Enniskerry and she was intercepted by someone known to her. Like, I would not rule that out as a possibility.
Oh no, I wouldn't rule it out entirely. No, absolutely not.
Because the person that's seen her getting on the bus, like, worked with her.
Yes.
And I think
would have known her well.
She could have got to Enniskerry, but then or she could have got off the bus before.
Absolutely, because that girl, I think, got off only a few stops down the line, didn't she? So she wouldn't have really, you know, if Annie had got off on the next stop, she obviously wouldn't have known, like, you know. And then there was that post office lady.
Now she wasn't sure. And I remember Mrs. Nancy McCarrick was saying that woman bought local stamps and Annie only ever sent letters to New York, apparently. So. And
another thing I was thinking then, post offices close around 5 o'clock or whatever. And this lady said she was finishing her shift at 4:30. If Annie got the bus late, you know, and didn't arrive there until 5 o'clock, you know, it doesn't kind of all add up the timeline.
No. And if she's planned to go for a hike, like, I don't think she's going to buy stamps and then go hiking with the stamps. And
especially if the dark is coming in.
You just buy the next day in the post office, like, when you're back in Sandymount or whatever, you would think.
Exactly. Like, you know, there's a lot of questions, really. And, you know,
as you said, because the case is so well known and now it's over 30 years old now, so there's been so much written about it and speculated, you know, there's so much stuff out there on it. But I think they're focusing on the local area where she was from and a man that lived there at the time. So I think that is...
I read there recently now, I don't know how true it is, that the case has now there's literally only one detective on the case now that they've taken a load of... Yeah.
No, it could be that they might have hit a wall or something like that, who knows? But I think the evidence going back 30 years, it's just so difficult for the Gardaí to go back and find, you know, going back 30 years overall statements and so on.
And the longer it goes on as well, the hard, you know, the less likely, isn't it?
Memories fade.
Yeah, absolutely. Moving on, then you have Eva Brennan in July of 1993, which was only 3 months after Annie McCarrick.
Annie,
and
and she didn't live far from Annie at all.
No.
I think the Rackar Sandy Mount now is not a big distance at all from each other.
We'd still be putting this down to just pure coincidence, I presume, that the two of them live close by.
So, yeah.
Do you know, she it was very strange actually, her story. Like, you know, she had gone to mass and then she went home to her parents' house. She had an argument with her family, her siblings.
A small argument at that as well.
It wasn't it was something about what they were having for dinner, seemingly.
As you know, families.
That's what I mean. It wasn't anything major, like, you know, we all have them, as they say. And left, and that was it.
Fell off the face of the earth, yeah. There was not even, she was from, like, I think she was about 5'7", and she was quite, like, I suppose, an attractive looking woman, and she was wearing, like, a pink tracksuit, and she would have to walk through Rackar village, and I think it's Temple Oak village, like, all these places to get to where she lived, like, and she lived at a massive, like, crossroads as well, and not one sighting of her, which I found very strange.
Very strange, and especially if you're wearing a pink tracksuit, you would definitely stick out, do you know?
Yeah. On a Sunday as well, a warm sunny Sunday day as well in July. A lot of people would have been out and about, like, and she was I think she has 6 or 7 siblings, and her father was owned 2 pubs in the area, and also she was
so she'd have been well known. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, of course the guards were trying to suggest to her family that because she seemingly had suffered from, you know, a bit of depression, that she may have ended her own life.
Suicide.
Yeah.
But I think her family asked a few rifle questions on that, like, no suicide, no, and she'd where was she? She was nowhere to be found. Like, she hasn't been found.
That's what I was say. That's what I always say when they talk about suicide. I mean, if you do that, you can't hide your own body. You know what I mean? So somebody's going to find you some stage, you would think.
Doesn't make any sense at all. Like, now they did find her coat back at the apartment, but her handbag was gone. So they presumed that she got back to the apartment at some stage. But I suppose that can't even be confirmed. Yeah, and that's basically the story. The case hasn't been upgraded to murder or anything like that. It's still it was in 93,
stagnant, like, you know, kind of. Yeah, it's awful for the family. Like, it must be awful for them, especially when they were the last people to see her. Do you know? And think that's it. Like, do you know? And
it was very bizarre because, like, as I said, it's a big main road which she would have came out. But I suppose I looked at the map, and there is, like, if you took a left instead, there's a kind of a side road. Like, maybe she went that way, and that's why she was never seen. But like, Eva's life was quite centralized around, like, the Rathfarnham area. Like, she would have just went to mass every day in the same church, the Church of Annunciation. I think it's right there beside the Yellow House pub in Rathfarnham. And then I think she actually dropped into her parents most days. Just that happened to be a Sunday, and then I think she went then to a prayer group at night, and that was pretty much what she done every day. So I always wondered, she was probably quite vulnerable to being stalked.
I was going to say, could there have been somebody watching her, got to know her routine, and pounced in when they saw the opportunity on a quiet Sunday? Do you know?
Yeah, because Eva, she was quite a savvy person. They were saying, like, she was quite distrusting of men in a healthy way. Like, they said, if she was at a bus stop and a man came along, she'd just walk to the next bus stop. Like, so I don't think she was lured into a car by a complete stranger, you know.
Yeah, so it could have been somebody that she trusted. And then we get a kind of a break, and we go to November 1995, and JoJo Dullard, another, you could say, very high profile case.
Yeah, now I was going to say Eva was 39 now, not that it's connected to JoJo Dullard, but I was going to say JoJo was only 21,
Yeah, she was only starting out in life, you could say. Do you know?
Yeah, like 21, like, and she was a kid. You could see by her, like, by the pictures, she was like just a little kid,
Which I suppose, in a way, you can understand the kind of naivety of trying to thumb a lift at that hour of the night in the middle of nowhere.
That's common at the time.
Yeah,
that's the thing as well, isn't it?
Yeah, do you know?
You always see, like, I sit here at 40 years of age and think, like, she'd already booked a place in Dublin that night, and I said, why didn't you just stay in Dublin? And then the old guy, actually, I think he advised her to go and stay in the town or stay in the car station. And I looked at my 40-year-old mind, why didn't she do that? But, like, 21,
that's what I'm saying.
Done what she done.
Yeah, we've all done stuff. But we've all been able to thankfully live to regret it.
You don't have to sleep that much at that age. So
no, but yeah, I don't know. I don't understand how again she could have. I mean, she was talking on the phone to her friend, like, you know, when you think about it, and she told her friend that somebody had pulled up to give her a lift. She'd already got 2 lifts, and successfully got as far as Moon. And then whoever,
what did you think of the story that she got into the back of the car? Remember, did you see that there was a witness that drove by?
Yeah, there was a woman that said so that there must have been 2. But I know, like, sometimes when I was, I suppose, younger and taking taxis and all, I know there were taxis, but I used to always automatically get into the back seat of the car if it was somebody giving me a lift. I don't know whether it was just ingrained into my brain or what. Do you know? So maybe she just did that.
I think and also I think she had like a black kind of backpack with her. So she could have just been opening the door, putting that in the back seat. Or also, a more sinister way of thinking is that it could be someone that had a baby seat in the front seat of the car, make themselves look non-threatening.
Oh yes, of course.
That's always possible as well. So could be something in the front seat as well. But I suppose the most likely thing is 2 people in the car, though. You know.
Yeah, and God love her, like, you know, and as I said in my podcast at the time, I used to always feel, God, my heart used to break for poor Mary Phelan. Because she was so desperate.
She stood up so well, like, yeah. She just fought so relentlessly. And then for loads of other missing people as well. She made great inroads. Yeah.
She did, so, you know, and she never, unfortunately,
Mary,
got to live to see an outcome, you know. So, I mean...
if anyone ever deserved to live to 100, it was her, yeah.
Absolutely.
No outcome either.
Do you know, I mean, God, she really fought.
I don't really know what's going on with the JoJo case. There's like the last kind of update was the story about the truck driver who seen some woman running through Moon with no clothes on the night JoJo disappeared.
Yeah, that was the last thing I read as well. And he seemingly had come forward in 1995, but it was buried under a load of paperwork seemingly, and he couldn't understand why they weren't getting back in contact with him.
Yeah, because I think Moon is a place where there's like 300 people live there or something like that. Like, so if that happened in, I don't know, North Dublin, and you'd think it could be connected that a woman went missing and then that scene was seen later. So in a town like Moon, it can't be somebody else, right?
You would think.
It's true.
And I mean, to see a woman running naked down the street, I mean, it's, you know, I mean, and screaming.
And the poor guys, they tried to help her, but she was too scared. So, like, what are they meant to do? You know?
Yeah. She didn't know whether they may have been part of the gang, you know? So,
exactly,
you know, she was probably terrified. God love her, like, you know. So she went missing then in November. And then there was another kind of, I suppose, for these 7, say, that are the official ones on your website. Then we go to July of 1998 and Deirdre Jacob. And that one now, I mean, she literally was outside her front gate and she just disappeared.
She was a very young person. She was 18 only, Deirdre, on a break, sort of holidays from college, So now I suppose, she did, like, the last place she was seen, like, it was just straight across the road from her house, like, but it's not kind of like a suburban sort of gate. I think it's like a bit kind of country and there's a long kind of driveway up, but like still, right across from her house,
It's shocking, it's shocking, and it used to always remind me. Now I know it obviously isn't the same, but it used to remind me, because I suppose of the fact Annie McCarrick was last seen on the CCTV, and then they showed Deirdre Jacob on the CCTV, and they just kind of, I don't know, they gave me shivers when I'd see those images of the two of them, like, you know. And
because I think there's a bit more to the CCTV, because that's what the DPP were actually building their case on against Larry Murphy, was CCTV evidence, like, so there's some that's been held back, I presume, on the CCTV, and it was 98, it's, you know,
and it wouldn't have been it would have been very grainy, like, you know. But like there had been talks, hadn't there, that allegedly there was somebody in one of the CCTV bits of footage that looked kind of similar to him, standing behind Deirdre Jacob.
I think they went to people that were known to him and they identified him, said it was him. But I guess, though, also what you can say is, like, it's a very busy country town, and back in 98 everybody went to the post office, so not to be defending a certain Larry Murphy, but
No,
what does that
but
necessarily prove? That he's from the area. He would have probably went to the post office. Like,
yeah. Uh,
difficult one for the DPP. That one.
I know, yeah, you can't. But then you had the jailhouse confessions, I suppose, would you call them? That he supposedly, allegedly gave to a fellow prisoner. How much weight would you give them? Would you give them much thought, or?
So I suppose you would have to talk to the guy and know the guy first that told him about this confession. But what I found disturbing was that the way Larry Murphy told the story was that basically he got Deirdre Jacob. She leaned in the car and he punched her straight in the face, dragged her into the car, and then she struggled with him a lot and he basically killed her straight away. That's what he told the guy. And I do remember that, like, she was reported very early after going missing, and because of the JoJo Dullard case, like, presumed the Annie McCarrick case, and the guards were ready to go on this one. Like,
Yeah.
they knew, like, so they knew something was up, so they were out that night searching high and low with the best technology available at the time and all that, and not a trace of her. So I always thought that kind of matched up with the prisoner story, like why there was not a trace that night of Deirdre at all. Like, so
Yeah. You know, it's like
he was taken seriously by the guards. The guy's story, that's for sure. Like, you know,
yeah.
it boils back down to, because you heard the guards did actually visit Larry Murphy in England recently enough to question him about Deirdre Jacob, and apparently he asked them, "Did they have a body?" They said no, and he just told them to F
That's
off
right.
in them words.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He seems to be a piece of work, which or whether.
Yeah, well, we know he's definitely guilty of one horrific crime, so that's
Absolutely,
for sure.
absolutely, he sure
should
is.
never be let out of prison for.
No, if he was in
still in
America,
prison to this day.
he'd be still there.
Oh, he would have got 700 years, yeah.
Yeah, do you know, but that's a whole other podcast talking about our justice system, isn't it?
Oh, for these type of crimes, it's despicable, yeah.
Yeah.
Some of the leniency shown, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So then you go on to, so you go from 98 then to 2003. So, and then you have a girl called Claire Boylan who went missing in South Dublin again.
Yeah. The Claire Boylan case, I don't mean this, I don't sit here and say I'm taking credit for anything like that, but as far as I can see, until I started researching the cases, this case didn't actually really come out, like, or wasn't really mentioned at all, because Larry Murphy got locked up in 2001, and then it was presumed, the women stopped going missing.
Yes.
But the Claire Boylan case, she's pretty similar in age to Eva Brennan, and I mean, you walk out of Eva Brennan's house, you take a left, you walk for about 2 minutes, you take another left, and you're at Claire Boylan's house.
Okay. I hear you. Yeah.
Right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she was quite a similar type of character to Eva, like quite she went to church, she was quite reclusive in a sense, you know, similar age, and it was just jumping out at me. I was like, this is utterly, how coincidental is this? Like,
yeah, it seems like a bit of a coincidence, doesn't it?
Yeah, so what got quite strange there was that I actually came up with a suspect based on this. I dug in a little deeper, and I came up with a suspect. And what was bizarre to me was I stuck the person's name into Google, as you do when you get these things, and then nothing really came up. So I stuck his name in with Eva's name and Claire Boylan's name, and lo and behold, there's a certain DJ journalist in this country, he'd be very well known, and he was researching the Philip Ciarans case, which we all know about.
Yes, we do.
And yeah, and basically he discovered that the Eva and Philip were both known to the same man. They were in the same prayer group with him, and he was known to Philip really well, yeah. Okay. And speculated now, I don't know if this has been proven, but it has been reported that he also was known to Claire Boylan as well, which was very strange.
Well, if true, it is.
If true, of course, if true, yeah.
It's it is a major coincidence that he would have known those three people. Yeah,
because when you look at, like, say, Deirdre Jacob and JoJo, we were saying they're very young, and they look very young.
Yeah,
they look like kids, you know, 18 or whatever, 18, 21. But Eva, Patricia Doherty, and Claire Boylan, and say Antoinette Smith in a sense as well, they're kind of more mature ladies. Like, they had kids, and Eva was 39, Claire Boylan was 36, and yeah, they would look a lot different to Deirdre and JoJo, like, and then Deirdre and JoJo were both seen in County Kildare, which would be much more rural than Rathgar, Rathfarnham
Yes.
type areas, and I've never heard Larry Murphy in any way associated to them areas at all.
No, and then like when you're talking about serial killers, just in a general sense, they usually have a type, don't they? They have a kind of their own modus operandus and type, like, you know. So it's would be quite unusual for the same person to be going after young girls and then going after, as you said, more mature women.
Yeah.
Do you know?
And also, like, if he's from, so I think he's from Baltaglass, which is down in Wicklow. So if he's got out to say South Dublin, the Rathgar area, and abduct a woman and get away with it, I don't think he's necessarily going to return to Rathgar. It
No,
would be a strange thing. He's no connections to these areas. Like, yeah, he'd move on to the next area or whatever.
Now, I did hear
Larry
hearsay, and I suppose, and it's all alleged, obviously, that in a lot of the cases of these missing ladies, that he was working in the general area at the time, supposedly, allegedly. Do you know how true that is? I don't know.
You have to, I suppose, like, that's not an incorrect statement. I know he was working near Johnny Fox's pub at the time Annie McCarrick went missing, but you're talking about a freelance carpenter that was going from job to job.
Yeah, so it could be just, again, coincidence, like, you know.
20,000 tradesmen, electricians, plumbers, whatever, that were all in these areas that I'm sure you could track down, because, you know, they're just going to fix someone's roof one day and then the next person's roof, and you're going back and looking at his life over probably like a 2-year period, go, oh, look, there's some receipts here, he was here and all.
Yeah,
but probably just everywhere,
yeah,
you know?
Just part of his work, as you said, traveling around, part of his work. But yeah, so they're kind of the ones that you haven't, and then what did I say here? Disappearances that more than likely are not connected to the Vanishing Triangle. Then you had Marie Kilmartin, and
Marie Kilmartin, she was found murdered in 1994. She went missing around Christmas 93. She was last seen. So I've spoken to Marie's daughter a few times. Really, it's a very sad case. Like, she a tough life, Marie. Like, but just based on, well, a few things that I couldn't really go into, but based on where she was found, like, this is someone that would have been very local to the Mount Mellick sort of North County Laois area. But the person who done it was able to they had her house phone number, which was X directory, and they lured her out of the house through a phone call. So
okay. Oh gosh, the poor girl.
Again, like Eva Brennan, she was a very cautious woman, Marie. Like, she didn't like to go out after dark and this type of stuff. Like, so
again, you'd be saying somebody that she would have known, you know, that she would have been comfortable to go out to when she received that phone call. Yeah.
Even said it would have been quite something. Even then, it would have been quite something big to lure her out, like, you know, something. So it could be someone rang up and said there's a family emergency, or they'll pick her up or something like this. Horrible stuff.
Yeah. It's mad. It's mad for us, I suppose, people that don't think like this, to, you know, even figure out how somebody would actually think in those kind of ways to lure somebody out to their death.
With these cases, you also have to go back to the time. Because you mentioned the Marie Kilmartin case. That was also only 9 months after Annie McCarrick went missing. So the guards are probably thinking, what is going on here? Like, there's, like, we know certain cases are. Yeah, and some of the cases are without doubt killed by men that were known to these women. You know, that's what they were thinking, and that hasn't been disproven. So, like, because it took me to be serious, about 5 years to get my head fully around this.
I can understand. I can understand where, you know, because it's a minefield when you're actually looking down at it, like, you know, and trying to piece it all together.
I'm always delighted to actually try to explain this, because you can do the writings and all that stuff, but you could never really explain this in writing. It would be very difficult.
No, absolutely. And like, I just think it's so important to keep their names out there. I really do, because like a lot of them are still missing.
That's the beauty of the podcasts and the website, so to speak. Like, they're kind of they're immortalized, so to speak.
Yeah,
like, you know,
they're there forevermore.
The digital copies out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, one that really kind of hit home to me, because I just thought it was so sad that she'd gone through all of Christmas and her family thinking she was safe and well down in Waterford enjoying her Christmas, was Imelda Keenan.
Yeah, that's, again, another young girl. I think she was only 22, Imelda.
Yeah, do you know?
She wasn't saying that, like, there's just basically no contact with her from, I think she met her brother for lunch about, I think, a week or so before Christmas in Waterford, and from then her family had no contact with her over the whole Christmas period, as you were saying. And basically, her brother Ned was contacted by Mark Wall, who be her boyfriend at the time,
Mm.
and he just said that he thought she was missing. That he'd last seen her at like 1:30 or something like that. But he rang Ned at like 4 o'clock or something like that.
Mm.
Imelda's niece,
Yes.
she's spoken out a lot on this. Like, yeah, she's done great work. I
She's
think she's on the
great.
Pat Kenny show and all that. So
Yeah, she's
yeah, I'm just
great.
basically paraphrasing what she said. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
And when you look at the case like that, like, yeah,
It's just
the
mad
answers
because,
are
like, I mean, the story even that she was going down to collect her dole on a bank holiday Monday after Christmas, I mean, it just doesn't make any sense at all.
yeah. You said in the podcast, you're right. It's as you said, as someone on social welfare, like you're waiting for the next payment. And I'm
You
paraphrasing
know.
you here.
Yeah, you
You're right.
know.
You know when it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. You know, you're not going to make that mistake. And
Yeah,
it
and you know when the
just
post office closes as well. That's another thing. It
absolutely,
was
like,
closed
you
at
know,
that time. It was lunchtime. Yeah, sorry, it
yeah,
was closed that day, and it was at lunchtime. So
yeah, you know, it just there was no sense. It was nonsensical, like, you know, and
no, I think that he also said she was gone to get cat food or something like that, which on a Sunday back in 1993, I don't think the
there'd be
pet shop would
nothing
have been open
opened.
on a
Probably,
Sunday.
I don't think there was.
No,
Yeah, and I don't think any of the
everything
supermarkets then.
closed in them days.
Yeah,
No, everything closed in them days in Ireland. Yeah, in them
everything.
days.
Yeah, Sunday was actually a day of rest back then.
Yeah, it's a pretty odd story, but I
Mm.
suppose again, it's like you were saying before. There's no body.
There's no
Like, where
body.
is Imelda?
No,
I would think Gina's gonna get to the bottom of this one. She's really like putting the
I
pressure
hope
on
she
anyway,
does.
in a good way.
I hope
Yeah,
she does, and I
fair
think
play
they
to
have
her.
their.
Like,
I think they have an idea who their suspect is. Do you know? And I hope they
I
get the
wouldn't trust
answers
Gina
someday.
either, so she'll
No,
be onto them anyway.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
so
sure.
fair
She's
play to
fighting
her.
for her
Yeah,
aunt, isn't
and
she?
she's got the case back out there as well. Like, so fair
Yeah.
play to her.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she has, because we're all talking about it now. You know, absolutely.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know? And I think it's like, so that was January 1994, and then we went to August 1996, and Fiona Pender. I covered Fiona as well in one of my podcasts, and she went missing from Tullamore in County Offaly. She was pregnant. It was a very sad case, like, you know, and very close to having the baby as well, and disappeared again off the face the earth. And again, the last person to have seen her was her boyfriend.
Yeah, I think also, I suppose, like you can rule out the random stranger on this case for many reasons, but also the fact that I think she was 7 months pregnant. Like,
She was, yeah. It was,
it's a personal crime. Like, as terrible as that is, like, yeah.
mm,
And again, the person who the guards suspect, like, there's been people covering for them for nearly 30 years now at this stage. Like, yeah. I just get the sense now, this is just a layman opinion or whatever, but I get the sense the guards have really taken this one personally, like, that they want this person that done it, like, yeah,
they want
that for
to
whatever
get them.
reason he did. Yeah, and I think rightfully so, like, a dangerous individual potentially.
Very dangerous by the sounds of it. It just amazes me how there's still, like, there's all these people walking around that have gotten away with murder, and as you said, not random strangers in a lot of the cases, people, you know, that were close
some of
to
these
them.
people haven't even left the area.
Yeah, you know.
Like,
again, Fiona was never found. So
no.
again, we've no body, we've no crime scene. You know, they're the two big things.
No, exactly. There's the crime scene. They did search the apartment, and apparently there was no evidence of a struggle or anything like that. But they keep searching. I don't know if you're familiar with it. A mountain range called the Sleeve Bloom Mountains.
Sleeve Bloom Mountain. It's like the Wicklow Mountains.
Yeah.
You know, it's like where do you begin? Where do you begin to look?
Yeah, that's what the problem is. It's so remote, and they're saying that like some places are actually inaccessible.
Yeah.
So,
do you know? And if you know these places like the back of your hand, and you know the places to hide, say, a body, you know, that
in a sense, like the person who commits these crimes. Now, this is just in general. The person that commits these crimes, their life is on the line as well after they do it. You know, that's the way they're thinking. So they'll take more risks to go into places that are more dangerous, and they'll find kind of extra strength. You always hear, "Oh, could one person move the body and stuff like that?" Well, if their life depended on it,
you'd find the strength.
Could have.
Yeah, you'd find the strength.
I think, they would never go in there to put a body down there. It's too risky. But it's such a situation. The person, and they're already brazen people, are like impulsive. That's clear. So
and they're not thinking rationally either. I mean, if you're going to do something like that. Yeah, so that was Fiona Pender, and then Ciara Breen went missing in February of 1997 in Dundalk, and she was only 17. She was only literally a child. you could
He
say.
got involved with a terrible man. Like he was 34 years of age. Like actually, like I've literally no problem naming this person, Liam Mullen. He died in 2015. Like yeah.
Mm.
So basically, she was sneaking out of her house to meet this individual. Like and then the 12th of February, yeah, was it 97? She left the house and she never came back. Yeah,
She snuck
she was
out in
out
the
the
middle of the
window.
night. And her mother had said as well, didn't she, that she had hunted this man from their front garden. Like,
Sure. Oh yeah, her friends heard her conversing with him in a shop and basically said to him, they heard him saying that, "Oh, could I see you later?" And she said, "Yeah, I'll sneak out of my house later."
they're
And
sure. I
to
mean,
this day, like I think it's like six of her friends have never changed the story. Like, and how a 34-year-old man could be involved in a conversation with a
17,
17-year-old
yeah.
young one, like.
Well, it takes a certain kind of man, wouldn't it, really, to be
Yeah.
chatting,
So, and
talking.
the guards have literally said on this one, like, if they even found her fingernail, that Liam Mullen was getting convicted. They've said that, like.
Yeah, it's a pity. It's a pity he didn't live for that to happen, isn't it? He got away. If it was
But
him, he got away with it.
Yeah, the way I kind of look at that, and you're right, and this is like, it's easy for me to sit here and say this because this would be like it wouldn't be a justice to her family, but I suppose dying of a drug overdose at 50 in a Garda cell, it's not really a great way to go, is it?
No, it wouldn't be. I
Not that many
suppose
people would have sympathy for him.
I think I said it in one of my podcasts. Karma can be awful.
Well, I wouldn't have sympathy for him, that's for sure.
No, I wouldn't have sympathy for any of these individuals, so I wouldn't.
Well, her mother's dead now as well, unfortunately. Kieran
I didn't realise that.
Yeah, and she only lived with her grandparents and her mother, yeah, and a nice little house in Bachelor's Walk, like, and yeah, unfortunately her mother's like since died, yeah.
All these people that have died, it's like Fiona Sinnott that I was just going to get onto there, and her that I just did, and her poor father, I think the family think he died of a broken heart, like,
Yeah, same as Fiona Pender's father,
yeah,
like, as well, yeah.
It just
like, from the outside looking in, like, I just imagine the parents, their life just freezes for that day. They're forever stuck in 1998 or 1995 or whatever years. That's just where your life stops.
Absolutely.
Film,
And I always thought, I think I said it in one of the podcasts, like the person themselves is forever 17 and they're all in these grainy photographs from the 1990s. And that's all, when you think of them, that's all that comes into your head,
Like, when someone dies or whatever, you'll wake up in the morning and after about a few minutes or seconds, you might even think of it. Like, I imagine it just dawns on these parents like straight away every morning. Like, terrible, yeah. And then also the people that done this are not in prison.
No, you see, it's like a double whammy, isn't it? Your child is missing, unknown whether they're alive or dead, and the person is walking free.
It's even a triple whammy in a sense because your child is dead, they haven't been found, and the person that done it has got away with it.
Yeah, yeah. It's
probably was worse.
It's a life sentence. It's the family that gets the life sentence.
Well, that's it. They always say like the serial killers are murderers or whatever. They don't just kill one person; they kill their family as well, in a sense.
Yeah,
that's it.
They do,
destroy their lives anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, because you never. There was one final thing I wanted to ask you about. Did you hear the story about the 5 forensic experts that had written to the Garda Commissioner asking to basically do a dig to facilitate a search, I should say, in this underground cave in Wicklow? And they have had no response from the Garda Commissioner. They think there might be remains of Annie McCarrick, and that there's, they think there might be remains, but they did mention Annie McCarrick's name as one of the potential.
Yeah, I think the dog got a hit, right? Or one of the dogs anyway got a hit.
I was reading it there, just doing my bit of research before I came on to you today, and there was, 3 cadaver dogs were brought to the site on 8 separate occasions, and all reacting positively within a metre of each other. So 3 cadaver dogs on 8 separate occasions all reacted positive within a metre of each other.
You have to wonder why the guards aren't searching it, but then also I don't know if the guards think they're not going to bow to public pressure, or they don't have a lead on this place. But then also, like, on these things, like, fair play to the guys for doing that, because like that's proper.
I think it's 12 years of research they've been doing. 12 years. So it's not like they just came up on a whim.
No, I wouldn't. Like, their research and their motives and all that is not to be questioned at all. And like at this stage, to be honest, like, the cases aren't really like going anywhere at the moment. So like, surely even a bit more of a speculative search. Like, it doesn't have to be some like excavation. I presume they could do something speculative. The guards or something.
They were saying they could use ground penetrating radar and thermal imaging, so they wouldn't have to be doing a big, dig until they know for sure.
Also on the flip side, they might have done this and they haven't told anybody.
Maybe.
It's also possible. You probably find with the cases that you'd research as well, the guards, they don't like to say much. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but that's kind of the way they are, aren't they? Like,
everything goes quiet until there's a big press release, and then everything goes quiet again. And you're left wondering what's going on, like,
Yeah, so they're not going to, if they did go up and have a look at that place or whatever, they're not going to tell people, that way, like, so.
True enough.
I don't think they have, though. No. It would be my England they have.
Because it's very close to the area where Larry Murphy had taken that poor girl that he had abducted that time that he was convicted of abducting. I'm talking about like a couple of kilometres. So I think that's another reason.
It's worth searching.
I think so.
I think they're all bona fide, like, as far as I can see it, they're all genuine and they've got like the experience and the credentials and all that.
There's two professors.
For sure. It's not some crackpot team.
And two cadaver dog experts and one former FBI agent, and he's a friend of Annie McCarrick's mother, seemingly. So,
kind of strange, he represents the family or something, So, and he took them seriously, so I would imagine if a guy like that who was involved with the FBI takes them seriously, like, there's credit in it, because when he flew over to Ireland, I presume he doesn't live here, and then he went out with them and all that, so he took them serious enough,
I just thought that was really, really interesting when I heard it, like,
on the search things, I wouldn't be an expert on terrain or any of this type of place, but like Antoinette Smith and Patricia Doherty, they were only found, I think, 1 kilometre from each other. So I wonder if that area being searched since, or
because again, like going by American, because we don't have that many serial killers, thankfully. They have a lot of these serial killers have their area that they use as their dumping ground, which is an awful word, I think, but that's what they call it, isn't it? So if you find one, you find a lot.
Yeah, well, that's it. Yeah, well, if you find two together, then they definitely know there's.
Yeah, but I suppose I don't know. I know they've obviously come on leaps and bounds, but back in the 90s and the 80s, were our Gardaí properly equipped to deal with these kind of situations?
I would. See now, I was born in 1984, so I didn't have like anecdotal evidence of this. But my thinking back then is like Ireland. There was a war going on in the island back then, and the main remit for the guards was, we're in the EU now. We're going to open up the tourism. We're going to open up the business and all. There's not to be any warring in the Republic of Ireland. That is just not to happen, and that was the remit back then. So I presume so much of their resources were just put into managing the border, stopping trouble getting down into the south, and then there's other crimes out there, like Martin Cattle would have been around these days, these type, John Gilligan, there's all these things to deal with as well, and then they didn't have CCTV, phones, none of this type of evidence to go
or
on.
DNA.
And then they're working back in time. No DNA, and then they're working back in time. And no crime scene most of the time. So even now, like if you put modern techniques to these cases, if they were happening now, I don't think they'd actually get solved, would they?
No, because if you don't have this crime, like the whole premise of, I suppose, DNA evidence and all that is, you get the crime scene, you get the person's remains, and you work from there, and they had
still have to be
none of those things in most of the cases.
No, it would still have to be old school detective work, I suppose, even in this day and age.
Boots on the ground.
You're not working with any DNA, and any potential places that they might find now only discover that Eva Brennan there might be a crime scene, or just for example, like some case, and then
you're talking about nearly 50 years ago.
The place. Yeah, no, I know they did re-examine Fiona Sinnott's house though.
They did,
not so long ago at all.
Yeah.
So I suppose forensic science they can do wonders with it. So
I suppose now, I know that they can that DNA, that they can get samples of DNA from really old bits of blood and all that. And I suppose if you're checking down, like if there was wooden floors, just for an example, if some blood splatter had gotten down through the crevices, maybe, things like that, I suppose. I don't know.
Look for it then, yeah. And even then, it's difficult to prove. They'd have to kind of look for it to be like cross-contaminated with a suspect's blood at the same time. And then
because she
the
lived
suspect
there,
lives in the
she
house.
could have
What's
cut
that
herself.
prove? Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah. And then, it's very difficult. So, I don't know. I suppose some of the cases, we could say there's more of a chance of getting solved, and then other ones, they're just so long ago. Like,
yeah. You just keep waiting, don't you? You keep hoping and waiting to get the news flash up on your phone that...
I suppose, as it stands at the moment, it looks like it's either going to be the most likely to be solved will be the Annie McCarrick case, and then maybe the Deirdre Jacob case, because they did prepare a file for prosecution in the Deirdre Jacob case. So
yeah, so all we can do is keep our fingers crossed, can't we? And hopefully that we will get that news someday soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The suspect I've came up with, like who the other journalist actually came to as well, they're dead as well, so there's not going to be any prison there, unfortunately, either.
Okay, so we've got a lot of dead ends, but I suppose even for the families, the common denominator, which a lot of them is, and I've said it in the podcast, is they just want them back. They just want to be able to bury them. I suppose when it gets to a certain stage,
the justice, they want the person home.
Yeah, of course, and that's understandable. Yeah, so if anybody has any information on any of these cases, get in touch with your local Garda station.
Guards have said they'll keep all this confidential, and as we were saying, they will do that.
They will.
One thing they can do.
Yeah. So any small, nobody ever knows. It might be something you think is really insignificant, and that might be the small little bit of information that they need to crack the case.
Like, decades have passed as well. That's another thing. Like, people who they might have been scared of in the past, they're old now, or they're dead, or whatever it may be. There's numerous reasons as time goes by to come forward. Because
absolutely,
time's not a healer in this case for the families at all.
No, absolutely not. Nothing will ever bring back their loved ones. But if at least they had somewhere to visit and they knew that they were there, it would be some small little bit of comfort for them.
Because that's what Nancy McCarrick, Annie's mother-in-law, was saying. That's what she just wants her daughter back. Yeah. I imagine that applies for all the families. Yeah,
absolutely. So listen, Ciaran, thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on. I really enjoyed that. I found it very informative, and you have so much knowledge on it all. And I hope maybe some other time you'll come back again and we can chat more about it.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I'd love to get you on my podcast at one stage as well.
Absolutely. I'll come on your podcast, no problem. Brilliant. And again, your podcast is called the Cliff's Edge podcast. So guys, go over and have a listen. I presume it's on all major podcast platforms, is it, Ciaran?
Yeah, it's on all them things, yeah.
Yeah, it's on all them things. So guys, thanks for joining me for this insightful episode with Ciaran MacConnell. I hope you found the discussion about the individual cases from the Vanishing Triangle as thought-provoking as we did to record it. I mean, Ciaran's research, it's great to highlight the stories of these missing women, and it emphasises the ongoing efforts that are out there to try and find them and bring them home to their families and bring closure for their families. So be sure and check out his website, irelandsvanishingtriangle.com, and listen to The Cliff's Edge, his podcast, for more in-depth discussions on other unsolved true crimes, and not just in Ireland. He does ones from all over the world. So I'll see you in the next episode in a couple of weeks. And in the meantime, keep your eyes open and your mind curious, and look out for each other. Mind yourself. So guys, that's it for today's episode of the Ireland Crimes and Mysteries podcast. Again, thanks for your listenership, and don't forget to subscribe to the show and hit that auto download so you never miss an episode. Until the next time, keep your eyes open and your mind curious. This podcast has been compiled from information gathered in the public sphere, like news articles, documentaries, and open source material that can be found on the web. Everything in this podcast is alleged unless a conviction has taken place.
You've been listening to Ireland Crimes and Mysteries. Join Nools for another episode, coming real soon. And keep up to date by following our social media sites, our YouTube channel, and our website, irelandcrimesandmysteries.ie.